hard time understanding the discrepancies between the high school numbers and the middle school numbers.
Absolutely. If you go to, say, it would be the second page, I believe it would be, for Spanish Table 3, the total number of kids that are enrolled from 8th grade right now are 80 kids. And that includes students who have enrolled in Tech, Wamogo, or other possible private schools. So then we backed out those kids who are going to Tech and Wamogo, and what you actually have is anywhere from 45 to 54 kids who are going to be coming to Torrington High School for Spanish, as opposed to the 84 that are on the enrollment right now for requests. All students in 8th grade are required to put in their requests for high school because, you know, they're not sure at that point of registration if they're accepted to Tech or Wamogo or any other schools. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah, but do we know how many end up coming back to us?
That I don't have that answer. I mean, off the top of my head, usually we generally lose about 100 kids from the 8th grade class to the 9th grade class. You know, we have 353 kids next year, you know, or in 8th grade this year. Right now there's 101 expected to go either to Tech or Wamogo. Maybe 15 of those will come back, I'm not sure. But ultimately, over the 3-year period, the numbers aren't statistically different that our enrollment up in level 2 for Spanish, Italian, and French warrant me coming to you in a responsible manner and saying, I need $180,000 for 3 more teachers. And we may have to cut more teachers if the Board of Finance doesn't agree with our budget.
Do we have any idea the number of students that wanted to take the world language but were unable to because of the teacher recommendation to take the double language arts that started a couple of years ago?
No, I don't have that data. We've never, to be honest with you, we've never really tracked that. I mean, the students who do not take the world language and are in LA2, I think that's what you're referring to, are students who need that second hit of language arts. That's what it's there for. By restructuring the world language the way I am, every kid will have an opportunity either to have exposure to Italian or Spanish. Every kid will have that secondary hit in a reading class, which we don't have in, you know, for the most part in 6th grade at all, because it's just the one class. In 7th and 8th grade, we need to get more practice, so to speak, in reading and writing in content area, because as they move up, when you hit the CAP and when you hit the Smarter Balance assessment that's coming down the road, they're going to need to have skills and practice in science class, taking articles and synthesizing what's being asked of them and write a persuasive essay to that article. You know, the science teachers are trying to not only get through content, but then I'm asking them also to make sure they're infusing reading and literacy skills that they also need to be teaching the students. So by having this reading and writing in the content area, it will enable them to not only focus on content in their regular science classes, but it'll also enable them to have an additional hit with focusing mostly on the literacy and infusing also math, if it's science. If it's history, the history teacher is going to be able to focus on teaching history during a history class period of time and infusing some literacy aspects. But then there's another period in the day, she's going to get that same group of kids back on a 45-day rotation that she can focus in on. Let's look at an article, and whether it's let's say compare the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution. Really delve into that and not have to worry about getting through content, so to speak, and still be able to hit other areas that they need to do.
Are we giving these kids any chance though at actually learning the language in a 45-day period?
We are giving these kids an exposure to world language. Actually, those kids would be in a 60-day rotation because it would be a trimester. We're giving them an opportunity to exposure, culture, basic words. Okay, it's not. I'll be honest with you, it's not a foreign language prep class. If you show that aptitude in that 60 days, and you're picking up what the teacher's asking you to do, if you're showing that aptitude, they'll say, okay, you know, next year we'll put you in a year-long class and move you right through as fast as we possibly can, get you because the numbers aren't showing over a 3-year period. If I go back 4 or 5 years, it still may show the same 50 in Spanish or 45 in French. That only a select population is achieving level 2 for the high school. As I said at an earlier board meeting, I have to worry about the whole population, not a segment. I'm willing to, and I've worked with teachers from the high school with their input for how do we sustain potential world language level 2 for entering high school. That's where that whole year-long program came into effect. You know, I'll be more than happy to put it back in if we can get $180,000 for 3 more teachers. Because if we don't have another 8th grade team, you're gonna have 30 kids in the classroom in 8th grade. If you rob Peter to pay Paul from 7th grade to 8th grade, you're gonna have 30 in 6th and 7th grade. If you go backwards again, you're gonna have 6th graders in classes of 30.
Is there any other course offerings that might be expired courses, for lack of a better word, like we were looking at in high school? I mean, I did world language, I think is so important. Yeah, I mean, is there any other courses that we're spending money on? I mean, world language is so beneficial to these kids.
It's not, we're not spending useless money somewhere else, and I'm not juggling here or there. No, I mean, we are a service industry. I have to provide the best service for the greatest population I possibly have. You as a board asked me to be responsible in what kind of budget I put forth to you. I look at what I have in front of me and what's the best decision for all kids. And unfortunately, I printed it off, it's at the printer. As we go up through high school, the numbers decrease smaller and smaller to the number of students taking levels 4 and 5. The kids are taking it, I'm not saying they're not. But the numbers aren't as astronomical as you'd think they would be. So, I'm putting forth, my philosophy is I need to prepare the students for high school. And right now, that is in core academic classes. Not to give a leg up for high school. They don't get any credits in middle school for what they're doing. They just may be able to enter high school with, you know, in geometry, or may be able to level 2. The only way I can conceivably see doing this and leaving as it is, we reduce record classes. I won't be able to have them in 7th and 8th grade because we just don't have the time. And I would need 3 additional teachers at the middle school. I've, in good faith, come to you with a way to reduce class sizes in a way that I still can offer an education for all students and still help students potentially get a leg up for entering high school. And along the way, I have a 14-year-old in my own house. There's some things that sometimes it just doesn't get. It's not because we don't want to give them to them in that education system where I live. It's just not plausible because of certain economic situations. And I understand that. Am I happy about it? No. But there's certain decisions I have to make for my own house, but also there's I need to make for the students in Torrington Middle School. And it's not, I know it's not a popular situation. But I do have a solution. I don't know if I can get $180,000 out of you, or the Board of Finance.
I would just like to commend you on thinking this forwards, backwards, and sideways before you came to us, so thank you for that.
I would just like to say something that is, again, maybe outside. I appreciate what you've done. You try to make the most of what you've had. And I would just like the board to think, I know this is a huge undertaking, but with all due respect to my heritage, I continue to strongly believe that as we move forward in talking about hiring 3 new teachers, I really think this board needs to bite the bullet and talk about which languages we're teaching. And if we're going to invest in foreign language teachers, we have the point where we grandfather out the teaching of Italian and start bringing in, Chinese, for instance, a language that is much more forward-looking and could be yet another one of these curriculum pieces that if we were to invest in and develop, could be a magnet for other students to come to. You know, we have to start thinking those, and we can't just keep redoing the same thing over and over and over again. And I am the grandson of immigrants, I understand that. But everybody here is the grandson or granddaughter of immigrants knows that those immigrants who came from the old country came to this country precisely because it was forward-looking and forward-thinking. And I think they would expect that from us. So I agree, this year we're locked into this. But going forward, I don't want to see, you know, if we're going to be spending $180,000 on 3 foreign language teachers, I want that discussion to be front and center for consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're off the hot seat. Mr. Becerra, reorganization of maintenance and custodial positions.
What I passed out is what you don't have in your packet is the levels, custodian levels at schools present. Okay, I was asked to think outside the box here a little bit and develop a restructuring and reorganization plan for our custodian and maintenance staff. And in your packet, there's a 3-page draft with our first concept of it. Running down the first page, maintenance personnel, what we'd be doing, we'd be developing a 5-man maintenance group that would report directly to myself, the director of facilities. They would be in charge of the 2 next groupings there, which would be maintenance for exterior duties and maintenance for interior duties. And what I would like to try to do with something like that would be a work order system that would be developed, implemented, and it would start with the principal and a custodian that's stationed at the school. And would be the work orders would be developed. I could review them, find out what's necessary, prioritize, and then deploy the personnel from that point. That personnel would be that maintenance group that I'm talking about. By developing that type of a group, what happens is when you go to your next page, you come to the custodian crews by building. This is what's left over in the group after the 5 have been removed for maintenance. Day shift, night shift. In the center there, you'll see a head custodian group. Thought process on what you're seeing there is those shift hours. The head custodian would be in charge of the day and night shift at the school. He would be responsible for that. He would actually be working part days and part nights because, you know, just to supervise better, what would happen there possibly is we may lose a night head custodian at the schools. So now you have 1 head custodian instead of 2. I've explained that a little bit on the note below there, where crews are 3 or larger. That's where that split custodian head custodian would come into play. When you only have 2 guys or less there, or 3 or less, excuse me, your head custodian would work his normal 7 to 3 shift, and then you would only have 1 or 2 guys below him at night. And then in the next 2 columns, I've listed basically the day duties and night duties. Now some of the duties that are listed on this page and the other page, these were just put down randomly very quickly. I don't want you to, I mean, I'm sure there's items that could be added or subtracted, but I just wanted to give you a rough idea that these guys in the building level, their basic duty is going to be cleaning these buildings. That's all they have to do. That's all I want them to do. They don't have to be detained by, they will have emergency issues during the day, but they're not going to be changing light bulbs. They're not going to have to worry about a leaky faucet. They're not going to have to set up for a concert, something like that. The maintenance crew is going to have to be organized and be able to do something like that. This way, their duties won't be pulled so much. Okay, I'm trying to confine their duties a little more. And once again, at the bottom there, it says all work previously described above is school-based. And what I mean by that is facility use on outside organizations will be handled and addressed as they normally are right now. When an outside organization wants to use our building, we will still continue to fill out a facility form. We will schedule a custodian or 2 that needs to be at that site at that time, do those setups for that type of group. That's an outside group. They pay us for rental of the building and the use of the custodian. So that's not a budgetary in the custodial organization, excuse me. And on the last page, I kind of listed just a few things. For instance, equipment that might be necessary to do this. And to be more efficient, you know, yes, we do have a lot of lawnmowers. Yes, we do have a lot of this, and we do have a lot of that. What we're trying to achieve here is you're trying to maximize a professional group of guys or maintenance people to go out there, do the job the most efficient way they possibly can. So I don't want a tractor that's going to travel at 1 mile per hour when I can get a machine that's going to go out there and do 8 or 9 miles an hour and get the job done that much faster. So that's what I'm looking at there. You know, possibly an industrial 0-turn mower, a landscape trailer to move that around with equipment, sidewalk sweeper and blowers, a service truck. Now, a service truck being, I think that would be something we could add to our plow fleet as well, and a utility body on it, so we would have during the winter months or even the summer months where we're carrying tools. I don't have to, you know, send a custodian in here to go fix a toilet or a sink, and he's going to have to look around for tools. He's going to have something on his service truck. He's going to go in there and get them, get the job done, and then be done with it. So once again, this challenge was brought forward to try to maximize some efficiencies. I see, you know, I can see ways to do it, and there's going to be a lot of challenges in doing this also. Absence and vacation coverage is going to be paramount to try to overtake. And flexible schedules that I'd be looking for on the first page is going to be an interesting one. What I'm looking for on the first page is flexible hours for that maintenance group, looking that they'd be able to start at 5 a.m. and possibly work till 6. Once again, this is just a rough draft. I want you to realize that. And the reason for those flexible hours, they would be continuous hours. I wouldn't ask them to work 5 a.m., take 4 hours off, and come back for another 4 hours. They would work 8 hours continuously, depending on the day and the type of work that's coming down and how we're scheduling it. If it's a snowplow day, we might want them in there at 5 a.m. Get it done so we can do a late opening for school or just be ready to open school on time. You know, so they would work their 8 hours at that point. But once again, the hours would be flexible. So that's the concept in a nutshell. And I don't know if, how you want to proceed from that point.
You say an industrial zero-turn 60-inch mower, but that would be reducing the current structure of mowers that we have at every building.
It would, yes.
We would be able to sell non-used mowers to gain some money towards, or trade in towards a bigger one. But you'd have to keep some small hand mowers that you have.
Well,
but you'd be looking for one high-performance mower that will allow you, like you said, to cut, I use the fairway mower one, they mow a 200-acre golf course in 4 hours.
Right.
They don't do it with a 42-inch walk behind. Those things are
no, they're
monster
huge.
long.
Once again, as I said in the last meeting, we have one of those. We have we've got the gull wing mower that does the fields out here. Now, we'd have the opportunity to move it to a different school now, like the middle school, which has similar acreage. The question I have, the only problem I might have with the selling of equipment is our mowers and snow blowers are combination units for our sidewalks. So that would be a challenge there. We might be able to get rid of the decks, but we still might want to keep the blower attachment for the tractor.
But we wouldn't have to maintain 8 sets of lawnmowers.
No.
We would be
No, we
able to
wouldn't.
maintain one fleet
Right, exactly.
and use it to its efficiency.
Exactly, do that and combine a lot, the weed whackers that we've got in every building, the leaf blowers that we've got in every building, and that type of stuff. So we could do a lot of consolidation there, maintenance-wise. And,
Any other comments?
I think it's great, you can't continue to keep doing the same thing, so congratulations. Looks like an excellent plan.
Just my concern about what does it mean to be a head custodian as far as wages and
presently,
whatever.
or whatever it is.
Proposing here, you're saying a head custodian is .5 day and night. It's one person who's coming in and he's gonna do a mix of day and night work.
Yes.
Meaning he's coming in later in the day, leaving earlier at night.
Right.
Than the other two.
Right.
What does it mean that he's the head custodian? Because
The
he
custodian.
has the same amount of labor that he always did.
I think
He
they're
gets
gonna
some stipend to be a head?
They do get a stipend to be a head custodian, yes.
And what is that?
You have a head custodian on every shift currently.
There is a head
It's all
custodian.
different. There's a stipend for high and middle and elementary, between a night and a day. It
If you
ranges
just go
from
back to
1,500
our
to
meeting reviews from the 1579 negotiations that you were on as part of the committee, you'll find that that's included in there, as they are a member of the
And I'm asking him
1579.
now, just what the
Okay.
actual dollar.
Dollar value is for the high school is $1,550 per year. The middle school is, the night at the high school is $1,200 a year. The day at the middle school is $1,550, the night at the middle school is $1,200. And your elementary schools are $950. That's your head custodian stipend.
And in Southwest, East, they don't have what would be considered a head custodian?
Yes, they do, yes.
The one is the head, you have,
The one is the head custodian.
so he's the head of himself.
Well, he's got to have a guy with him.
Okay, that half guy. Okay.
It's the way I mean, you're looking at 50 years of organization here that, I think there's going to be questions, there's going to be, I have, I've got a few questions of my own that probably should be brought at maybe a policy or a personnel meeting. We could probably bring this up and talk about it so we can start, if we're going to implement something like this, how and when we can do that. Okay?
personnel.
Is it?
Right. Any other discussion? Thank you.
Yeah, I just,
Oh.
the owner too, I'll just say thank you, Dave, for,
You're welcome.
for pushing this, you know?
Yep. Thank you. Online learning program update.
This was just, it was asked about during budget time, and this was a presentation given earlier this year through January. We'll have a total summary for June, at the end of the school year. So these were the numbers that were presented.
And this was given to
February.
us in February, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So this is just a repeat of the information from February to update the questions during budget, and there'll be a final review, which we should see in July.
Correct.
Yes, you.
In the final review, can we get a breakdown of the number of students that are enrolled because they failed a course and are retaking the course versus other students that are in these courses?
For credit recovery versus,
Yeah.
they're primarily for credit recovery, but that's easy to get.
Because credit recovery would mean that they've taken the course in the classroom, failed it, and now they're taking it. Just so we could see the breakdown of those numbers.
Chris?
We had a similar chart to this one other time maybe, but I have the same question, I guess. And why are certain content areas or subject areas so high compared to, there's clearly a disparity between science and social studies as to how many students. So I'm just wondering if you look at the data, if there's some pattern that we're noticing, perhaps that could be brought to our attention in this report. All social studies are on period 7, and period 7, they're all failing, and whatever. It's all one classroom. I don't know. It just strikes me as odd that there's such a disparity between subjects.
Part of that has to do with the number of courses that students take at a particular grade level. In 10th grade, for example, students take 2 social studies courses. They take the Ancient Civilizations and American Citizenship course. I'd like to see that American Citizenship course move to the 12th grade so that the students have a single year of social studies, 9, 10, 11, following the sequence with the options for AP where appropriate, and have the civics course be our last shot at instilling the values of citizenship in our seniors, and also having the opportunity to register them to vote at that time. So there's. It used to be, and it's doubled up in 10th grade, and so if you look at the number of students that we retain, 9, 10, 11, and when students are eligible to leave school, they're more likely to be concentrated in those courses in the lower grades. So that's possible, that's one possible explanation, but.
Or maybe just breaking it down further, besides social studies, into what classes?
What actual courses as opposed to what subjects.
And then also, PE and health.
Yeah.
How would someone take PE or health online?
Health is easy to take online because there's content, obviously, that is largely dictated by state mandates in terms of HIV education and healthy eating and so on and so forth. PE, there are options for being able to maintain a wellness log, a fitness log, whether it's walking, running, bowling, yoga, other activities that can be charted and mandated for, that can count towards physical education credit, physical activity, weight loss.
Tied in with, eating well and exercising on a regular basis. We've had kids do that. They have to be physically active for X number of hours per week.
They're not team sports, obviously. I mean, there are options that can be done individually.
I'm just wondering if that option could be extended to some of our other students.
So, do we have any hopes and projections projections that we're actually going to use online learning next year to broaden this learning opportunity to a larger variety of students and students' wants and needs? Or are we just going to continue to use online learning solely for credit recovery?
It's not being used solely for credit recovery right now, but according to board policy, students who are in need of credit recovery in order to stay on a trajectory for graduation have first priority over other students who may be taking it for enrichment or for acceleration or for other purposes. This year, we've seen a substantial increase in the number of our English language learner students who are taking courses online as part of a blended learning program with their classroom teachers.
So,
If we want to add more licenses, then we can expand the opportunity for students, but we've maintained the level of licenses in the budget for next year at its current level. Because we can't
so your
afford-
answer is no.
No, we can't afford to
We're
buy
not
more
going to
licenses.
do anything to expand an alternative to go into the future with more online learning to affect a larger variety of students. We're going to continue
Not as
on
long
in
as-
this mandate.
Not as long as we continue to have as many students in need of credit recovery in order to get their high school diploma. Because for them, it's a necessity. For the other students, it's an enrichment.
Just to momentarily piggyback off of Andrew's question, with the question of my own, if the course is basically being filled up during the day, does that mean that it's filled up periods 1 through 7 at the high school? For all 7 periods, all doing credit recovery? Or are there points during the day where that room is being utilized for other services?
The online learning lab is not being used for other students. Keep in
Okay.
mind that during the school day is 24/7. The students have an opportunity to take courses during the school day. They can also take courses outside of the school day and only use that time during the school day for tutoring and for completion of their assessments under adult supervision. Are there 15 students seated in the lab every period of the day? Probably not, because it depends upon what courses they failed, when those courses would be meeting, so the students would roll into those seats
Well,
at a time.
that's
So-
why I'm piggybacking off of this, because if the facility is available for the 7 periods of the day, and there are other students who wish to have an enrichment, and those seats aren't being filled, we're paying for the license, and seats aren't being used during that period.
Also keep in mind that these aren't seat time classes, these are mastery classes, so students roll in and out. Students may take longer to finish a class, students may take less time to finish a class. So you could have a standby list of a student who's interested in taking a psychology elective, for example, because they couldn't fit it in their schedule, who is on a waiting list to, and have the opportunity to log in and take that course, but we can't guarantee them a set period of time every day for, you know, a window of time in order for them to complete the course. If they want to take it, you know, from 10 o'clock at night to 12 o'clock at night, I mean, certainly that's a possibility. They would just need to have the credentials to sign on, and they could work on their own time.
Okay,
So
so
there
there
are
is
those
some possibilities
possibilities.
for flexibilities to add in some of the enrichments for certain people over the course of time.
It's
There's-
possible,
okay.
but they're like parking spaces, and you can only
Yeah.
have one car in the parking space at a time.
Exactly.
Obviously, the demand is greater at certain times of the day than it is at other times.
Correct, but as long as there's flexibility in there, then that leaves some possibility open. So, thank you.
Can we get the data to see, like you show us at the budget process, how you zero-based everything and you documented the needs for every penny endowed? Can we see that same type of reporting on just how much time is available, what times are available, so that we can, as a board, decide whether or not we are underutilizing or we are at a max with the amount of seats that we now have?
I can ask the program manager for a schedule of students who are assigned to the online learning lab.
And how much availability would be still out there for other students to benefit from these seats, and try to promote it and educate the kids to utilized.
Thank you. Advanced placement in UConn ECE course history THS.
I believe this information was also shared previously. What you see on here is an explanation of some of the challenges in scheduling the large number of advanced placement and ECE courses that we make available to our students. With a 7-period day, there's one sheet that wasn't included with this packet. We do have a listing of the courses by period that shows that there are courses that are offered every period, and obviously those courses that most obviously would appeal to multiple students, for example, calculus and chemistry, are not scheduled at the same time. Certain periods that are avoided, like 5th period, when there's a large demand for band, and the 1st period when there's orchestra. All of these courses have to fit into that 7-period day as much as possible. AP offers courses in 31 different areas. As far as the UConn courses, there's, to some degree, not an unlimited number, but a large number of courses that could be pursued. Some of the things that interfere with our ability to offer every course every year are, once again, the scheduling. Secondly, the fact that the instructors of these courses have to be certified in order to teach an advanced placement course. You have to attend a summer institute that's offered by the College Board in order to have the experience to be credentialed to teach an AP course. Otherwise, you can't call it an AP course. And for the UConn ECE courses, since the faculty members are considered adjunct professors at UConn, they also have to attend training and become certified in order to have that designation as well. So that last paragraph just highlights those points that I just made about scheduling issues, insufficient enrollment, the opportunity for independent study, and I believe in some of the information that Ms. Creedon has been able to assemble, we see that there are a number of students who take advantage of that. Students who have in the past taken courses online, based primarily at their own expense, and then the lack of certified or accredited staff to teach the course. So we have been able to offer a wide variety of the courses that are available. As we mentioned before, there's no real advantage to eliminating a single course, because a single course is only 0.2 FTE, so it's only 1/5 of a teacher's assignment if there's only one section of it. So as long as there is adequate enrollment, generally 10 students or more, the course runs. If there is not enough interest, then the course doesn't run. But these are the courses that were listed in the program of studies for the years that are collected on the chart.
And that sheet that you mentioned that showed it by period was given to us in the last presentation.
Yes, yes, we have that. And the last page also has the credit courses that are available through our articulation agreements with Northwest Community College, Connecticut Community College.
So at this point, you're not looking at not running any of these courses next year unless there's lack of enrollment?
Just lack of enrollment. We actually have had to come up with funds to send 2 teachers to AP certification this summer for chemistry and biology in order to assure that we have certified staff to continue to offer those courses. They tend to be, both of those courses tend to be populated courses. So yes, we're continuing to offer all of those.
Thank you. Summary of mandates and initiatives requiring THS response.
This is again was a request to be included.
This was another presentation that we did.
Right, earlier,
That was February
A
also.
couple of months ago. I mean, generally, we think about the business of running the school as, curriculum and instruction and day-to-day maintenance and discipline. And what this chart does is it captures many of the other things that have claimed the time and attention of school administration in order to maintain our accreditation, to meet state requirements for focused monitoring, civil rights compliance, the implementation of student success plans, the time that's absorbed by the school climate and bullying legislation, school reform acts, the adoption of the Common Core, the transition over to the new assessment program, efforts to reduce school age arrests, and efforts to reduce the dropout rate. So it paints a picture of a fairly busy administration at Torrington High School.
I said, and then the next piece is there was questions about course selection. What are the opportunities for students to
Be placed in the courses that they had chosen.
and ask Mrs. Creedon to come and share this? Come on.
Good evening. In your packet, you have the 2012-13 student course report. Because what I was requested to provide you was the number of requests for courses so that you could look at the number of fulfilled, unfulfilled. And I believe it's in the context of, so why are we offering what we're offering? So I'm just going to go across the heading here just so that you understand how this chart works. So for Accounting 1, for example, which is the first course you see, 49 students requested that, okay, either for their first choice or their alternate choice. 35 got the course. 14 did not get the course. There was a movement plus or minus in this case. In this case, plus 4 students moved in, and so 39 students are taking that course. So that's how the chart reads. The reasons for movement could be change in placement. A level is not the appropriate placement. Perhaps a student would need to move up or move down. Students come into the district, and so that kind of explains that. The notes here, I think, just help to explain that some courses are taught concurrently. For example, some of the language courses are combined courses. Accounting 1 is taught at the same time concurrently with Accounting 2, because we only had 3 students in Accounting 2, so obviously it makes sense to do a combination there. In some cases, room availability is limited because of, if it's a lab course, we can only put so many people in a lab. Ceramics class, only so many people can work in that class. And so what I also prepared, though, I thought might be helpful for you to understand why we're offering what we're offering, was the memo that I attached to this. So the courses that we currently offer, A, they've met the approval by this board. B, they satisfy credit requirements for graduation. And C, they support the existing THS mission. The review of course offerings is ongoing. So every year, the coordinating teacher of each department collaborates with the other faculty members of the department and reviews the course of study. When reviewing those courses, these are the considerations. 1, the scope and sequence of courses. So in the core content areas, English, math, social studies, science, the sequence is based on the standards. Okay? It's also based on what college requirements are. Electives are generally offered as part of a sequence to achieve proficiency, as in languages, to develop and refine skills, as in the arts, so intro to art, and then you could take painting or drawing, sculpture, or as a cluster. And this goes back to what's been brought up in school improvement committee meetings. So the CTE clusters, in business ed, for example, you might have personal financial management and Accounting 1 and Accounting 2. The idea is to cluster courses that make sense. In tech ed, you would, for someone interested in pre-engineering, CAD, as well as connected with physics and other courses. In the human services, child development coupled with intro to psychology. And then hopefully going to the UConn individual and family development course. So the idea is to build to build the foundation in each of these areas. The total of the courses a student takes is we're trying to launch him in a direction, him or her in a particular direction. So that guidance is provided by the school counselor, the student success plans, which we have been working on and we're refining this year more so than last year, and it's going to be an improved process going forward. And of course, involving the student, parent, and the teachers. This next bullet, I think, is something that, again, the School Improvement Committee has been dealing with and considering. Has there been a significant change in the school vision and mission? Right now, THS is a comprehensive high school, attempting to offer all things to all students. This is a challenge at a time when many urban districts have created specialty academy schools, and that was one of the topics that has been talked about in committees here. We know that we are supposed to be preparing all students to be college and career focused. But the answer is not the old, it's either this or that. It's not college prep or vocational ed. But really what we have to work on are multiple pathways that get students to where it is, whatever path they're on, something that they can connect with. So these courses have to establish critical foundations for further future learning, as well as opportunities for specialization. And that's where the internships and these partnerships that have been talked about, and the capstone project, and all of these ideas will come forward. New course suggestions that are generated by student interest, for example, international studies came forth because students wanted that course. A faculty initiative, the Civic Life Project, was an after-school program that was so dynamic that the faculty people involved wanted to make that be a course. As the result of the Board of Education study, that's where the CNA course came from. The other piece about any new courses is they have to be marketed like anything else. Students have to believe the course is of personal value. Other things to consider: implementation of the Common Core state standards. Do our courses support the Common Core standards? Because that is the direction, obviously, that we need to make sure we implement. Changes in legislation, which require a different number of credits and specific course requirements. Well, the state, and again in this body, has talked about state mandates and state requirements over time, and the state has changed what that legislation is and the timeline for that. So originally, we were supposed to have 25 credits by 2018 with specific requirements that indicated some differences from what we currently offer. Now that's 2020. So that's been pushed ahead a bit. We also rely on information communicated to us from colleges and universities regarding minimum requirements, as well as the requirements that the typical selected applicant needs. And that's clearly our goal. And then, as Mrs. DeMonico referred to earlier, certification requirements. So the Department of Education requires specific subject area certification in order for a school to grant credit in a particular discipline. And especially at the high school level, there is specific certification for biology, for chemistry, for physics. It's not a general science high school certification. And currently, high school teachers teach 5 classes a day, so each is a .2 FTE. So course review is something that we are doing constantly, that we need to work on. I'm encouraged by the School Improvement Committee wanting to really delve into and creating, but we have to create a strategic plan. We can't, willy-nilly take a course or this course and say, we're going to make this change or that. It has to be part of a comprehensive plan that makes sense for all of our kids.
I absolutely agree about having a comprehensive plan. If these numbers were in reference to our last budget meeting where we had asked just classroom sizes, I'm just curious, is that what this was for, I mean, this does show how many students are in the course, but I'm curious as to classroom sizes. I know we have contractual obligations as to limits, but do we have a minimum? Is that part of our is there a policy for a minimum?
In a class?
There, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I probably should answer that.
No, there's
But
no-
there has not been.
There's no
There
range,
is not.
no. But there is a maximum. Typically, we've sat with high school principal, once we have our selections in, and we look at those lower populated classes and ask questions like, can we combine? Do we need to run this? Is there something else that we can do to work with those students? That's been pretty much the way that's been dealt with through the years.
In a lot of ways, the quality of the school is shown by the number of small units we're able to offer, willing to offer.
And I just feel like I need to say something about electives, because electives are frequently that hook, that wonderful thing that connects a student, whether it's an art class, a music class, a tech ed class, with something that they really care about, that they have a passion for. And it's frequently the electives that keep our students in school. So I think we have to keep that in mind when we're looking at the entire curriculum.
And it's also frequently the electives and the upper level classes that are singletons, that there's only one section that you're able to offer.
Right.
Question? Yes. Joanne. I'm looking at English, the sign-ups for English 1 at CP, G, and H level, and there are 30 kids who, 30-something kids who were unfilled. Does that mean there are those kids aren't getting an English class and can't?
No.
Okay, so.
That would have been
What
perhaps
happens?
that they were, which English are you looking at? Just so
I'm looking at, well, the three of them, English 1 CP, English 1 G,
CP,
English
G,
1
and
H.
honors. Those unfulfilled, it would have been that every student is in an English course.
Yeah, they
So-
have to be. I'm wondering where they show up in these numbers.
So it was perhaps that they had to move to another, it was suggested that they move to another level.
But that doesn't necessarily follow from the numbers, at least as I'm reading them, and maybe I'm misreading them.
So 6 unfulfilled, for example.
My real question
one
was,
CP.
no kid is not taking English.
Oh, no.
That could-
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. Sometimes students are also moved from a regular English class to a special ed English class for PPT, so that can also be another explanation.
Yeah, questions, Mr. Creed. We have an awful lot of art classes and different kinds of art classes. We have an art history class that's not being offered.
Right, we have put it out there for registration and students have not signed up for it. Or the number has been in the past, I don't know, this was 12, 13, the number's so small that we did not run it.
Right. And my thinking is, you said it before, that we need to offer, what was the phrase used? A systematic approach to how we offer these courses. And it seems to me that if we have kids who are taking art classes, it seems to me that instead of an elective, once again, it's the carrot and stick, that this should be a requirement, like in college. If you're going to be working in the arts, you should be required to take art history, because in any classic education, with thousands of years, you study art, you understand it, and then you make it. And it's rigorous, yeah, and it's not fun. I mean, if it's taught correctly, it should be engaging, and if it's taught correctly, students who are really interested in arts will be inspired by it, should be inspired by it, and if not, then we've got the wrong teacher teaching it. But shouldn't that be a requirement for taking further art courses? You want to take the fun stuff? Take this. You want to take, music production classes? You have to take music theory. One, make them take it.
The challenge is always, I think, in how to fit the courses into the same
Please, the
period.
challenge. The challenge is committing yourself to a progressive classical approach to education, which says you take the basic foundational stuff, you make people take that, you winnow out those who are really interested from those who are not really interested, and then you have a common, generally accepted, broad base of knowledge upon which to then grow. I mean, everything I've learned in high school through college and all, that's how it's been approached, and this is what I mean by willy-nilly. And it goes to what Phil Battles, that article, whatever it was, it's just willy-nilly here. We allow students to take this and take that, and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they come out with just a potpourri of stuff, you know?
Oh, the history of popular music was oversubscribed, I mean.
Well, yeah, but my point, John, my point completely.
I know.
My point completely.
All right,
And then you
I
find
agree
music
totally.
tech, and then you find music tech here, where we have, what, 139, how many
Music
kids?
tech is very popular. We could
Level
use
one.
another
Level one.
lab.
That's right, at Music Tech 1. What happens to Music Tech 2? All those kids drop out. We have a theory.
All students need 1 credit of fine arts. So generally, you start with introductory courses.
Yep.
So students who are not that interested can complete the requirement and move on to other course electives. If you're interested in doing it, then you raise the bar. You go to more and more rigorous courses, you add more and more courses to your sequence, so you do leave with a body of knowledge that Ms. Creed alluded to in the very first bullet, the scope and sequence of courses, so that a sum of those courses leaves you with some body of knowledge that prepares to launch you onto whatever your area of interest might be in post-secondary education.
Well,
We don't.
I agree with you, Mr. Cavanier. We're trying to cluster courses so that they make sense and they're part of a pathway that leads a student
To something.
to something meaningful for that person. There's also the fact that there are some basic requirements for some other students. The basic requirements, they know they have to have 1 fine art, and so that's why certain courses are more populated than others. The other fact is that sometimes it's only in high school that you can get a taste of something,
Yes.
and that's really important too.
And that's part of the, and that's another bullet that is included on the cover memo about the mission of a comprehensive high school. Is it to introduce students to a wide variety of careers and interests, or is it to specialize? And we see some districts that have made the decision to specialize by offering magnet programs and academies and other highly specialized programs of study, and other comprehensive high schools are comprehensive. We will never be in a position where we can offer every class that every student and every family wants to all students, because we're limited by the funds that the taxpayers allot for us. And we do the best that we can with those. We offer as many courses, with as much diversity as possible within our means.
Well, that's all well and good, except it's a failing system. We're hemorrhaging students to other high schools who are offering more specialized
Well, then,
curriculum.
perhaps we don't want to be a comprehensive high school.
That is correct, and that is my point. Maybe we need to narrow down the full palette of courses that we offer, and we need to specialize. If we have video production, maybe we should force kids to take, American cinema history, where you actually learn where to put a camera and why, and then you take video production, and then guess what? You go out with a camera, and you have some idea of where to put a camera and why. It just seems, and if I'm a parent, and I've got a kid who's in middle school, and he says, yeah, I want to make music videos, I want to get into video, but I want to do this, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to think, well, Torrington High School actually has a really good program for that. It's well known. Maybe we should talk about sending you to Torrington High School for that. They've got Photoshop leading to After Effects leading to video production. That's pretty cool.
Actually, we do have that.
We have Photoshop leading to After Effects leading to.
Not specific courses that are that narrow, but yes, that sequence
That's
of
narrow?
courses is available.
That narrow. It's industry standard stuff.
We can't afford to employ enough staff to offer a course that's only on Photoshop, so Photoshop is incorporated in some of the courses that you see.
If we got rid of some of these other classes, we could hire professionals who are very well versed in teaching these classes, and then we would have a competent staff in these selected pathways.
Then it should be the job of the school improvement committee to determine what
I
those
thought that's what we
pathways
were
should be.
working on this last year, I really did, I swear to God, I thought that's what we were working on.
There's also the whole business of using the community to do some of these things.
Hell
I
yes,
know
John.
CAFTA has a program for, I think, middle school age kids, and maybe others, on Thursday nights in video production. In this case, they're focusing on producing a news show, but it's out there, and integrating it with our own curriculum
I
might be
guarantee
something
you, if we had a robust program of, again, desktop publishing, web design in the school, these kids could go out into this community, into Litchfield County. There are people who would, they're not gonna pay, a flash program or a lot of money to do this, but for their little website, they can go to Torrington High School and get a couple kids to go out there with a camera and blah, blah, blah. Hell yes, they'll do it. They'll make money, they'll learn, they'll get professional training, and it will be a reciprocal relationship. And yeah, it could be done, But it can't just be, oh, I wanna take this and I'm gonna take that, There's gotta be structure to this, We've got it, that's what I'm saying, we have it in bits and pieces on a lot of stuff, but just bits and pieces and not connected.
But I do believe that it is more connected than you believe. And I think that that's what, so I think Mr. Marchand is coming to the next school improvement committee, I believe, and we'll take a look at that. But again, it goes to what is our vision, what is our mission? Right now, we are charged with educating every child who lives within Torrington. And some of those students who do go elsewhere end up coming back to us. And we have to have a variety of things to offer. So that's part of what we do.
Okay, woodworking tech, 109 requests, 53 total students in the course. What happens to those, what causes to have such a discrepancy that it's, kids request it, but then they really don't want to be in it and drop out of the course? How do you get those variations? Or you just...
Well, sometimes that is a fact.
Well, I'm just asking you on that, you have an explanation, just so I kind of understand what these numbers kind of...
Right, well, that 109 is both first and second choices. And there are times that, especially if there are core courses that have to be changed for a student, that might then cause a change in a elective as well, and so they would have to drop that elective and then take it another year, another time.
Goes
So,
opposite band, goes opposite their English class.
right.
So less than 50 students got to take woodworking tech this year that would have liked to have taken it.
Correct.
You have again, it's always, I see it year in and year out with Latin. I don't understand how we justify keeping Latin offered the way we do when you have 6 kids in Latin 1, you've got 3 in Latin 2, and then 11 in, I guess, AP Latin.
Correct.
It's, I don't understand how we justify the expense of having so few students interested, and not only interested, but actually taking a class like that when there's such demand for Intro to CAD 1. Again, you're almost 50% of the kids that requested it aren't taking the class. You have similar to Intro Graphic Arts, I assume. 96 requested, 38. How do you just, I assume every one of these teachers gets paid the same wage and costs the district the same amount. It seems like Latin, year in and year out, never justifies that limited resource of teacher expenditure when there's such limited demand by the students for Latin, yet it seems like if you put that money into courses that students seem to have a great demand for and aren't allowed to take for whatever reason, I don't understand how you create this type of course structure. And it's year in and year out, I just see that. You guys know what you're doing, but I would never, as a business person, say I have X amount of money, and I could service 100 people with X amount of money, or I can serve 6 people for the same X amount of money.
But that's actually, in essence, what we do if we have a certain number of teachers in a particular department. And that's as many teachers as we have in that department, even if I have many more students who want to take music tech. If I don't have another teacher for music tech, I can't offer more music tech.
I understand, but I mean, clearly, these courses that must have an oversubscription to them, they must, the teacher must be teaching 20, 25 kids in each class, I would assume, whereas we clearly must know that Latin 1, that teacher is teaching 6 kids for a year.
Isn't the Latin class, because it's being picked on, I think I need to defend it. No, I mean, wasn't there a personnel issue at the beginning of the year that made those kids drop? So that, those kids would still be there. That'd be a 14-kid class under normal circumstances.
Yes. I look at these numbers every year, and it always hits me. I mean, if there was a big demand for Latin, if every year I saw 20 kids wanting to take Latin, then it wouldn't red flag me, but it's every year I see just such a small amount of students who want to take. But they're usually like the students who want to take Latin.
Yeah, I suspect they're a pretty high caliber.
Yeah, they're always high caliber, and they're always coming to our budget meetings, speaking Latin to us, and, you know, it's impressive.
A lot
But
of people talk to those budget meetings.
what's that?
A lot of people do a lot of talking to those budget.
Yeah, I mean, they're always an impressive group of kids. I just can't, in our limited budget, I would like to be able to figure a more efficient way to get Latin to such a small variety of students and free up our resources to clearly satisfy the demand of these other classes like Intro to Business, which I think has much more value to a larger group of kids, and Intro to CAD, which obviously is important for those who want jobs when they get out. So these are my observations.